Well, hello and welcome to Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. This is Sandy, and this is my first live stream in wow, I don't even know how long, months and months and months. And I had gotten a lot of questions about how my garden was doing, what I was doing in my garden, and I just thought I am going to do a live stream and kind of answer some of those questions of what I'm growing in my garden, if I'm harvesting anything, things like that. And so I just thought it would be a fun topic because this is the time of the year that people start harvesting. They start really looking at their garden on what you're going to get. You have an idea. The tomatoes should be turning red. You got cucumbers, you got zucchinis. You probably got lots of zucchinis. Um, Maybe you're pulling out all of your garlic. Maybe some of your onions are ready. And Teresa is here. Hello, Teresa. How are ya? I tell you, it's my first live in a long time, so I'm totally excited. I was on around the hay bale just before now, and that was great fun. And Cheryl is here. How is New York? I bet you're just having a wonderful season. Um, Thank you very much. I have missed all you guys too. Sometimes in your life, you just got to do things. Maybe you want to, maybe you don't want to, but it's just the things that you have to do. And Julie is here. Good evening. My cherry tomatoes are coming on daily. Still waiting for the big ones. I have to say, most of my tomatoes are later too, just because we had such cool nights. And that can really make a difference on when your that your tomatoes actually turn red. But I do have some that are really close to the house, and those that big ones I have been harvesting for a while. But all the rest of them, it's got to be either cherry or the ones by the house. The rest of them aren't turned yet, but I still got plenty of time. Oh, and Cheryl says it's hot. Fun, fun, fun. We were pretty warm today. It's 86 degrees still, which is a lot warmer than it has been. It's been in the 70s. And I think for 4 days we're in the 90s. So that is going to be crazy. Julie says, I had a long spring, didn't put the tomatoes in tomatoes until June. I didn't start even growing my tomatoes until I got back from Arizona. And so when I planted those babies, some of them are about this tall, some of them maybe 5 inches tall, and I put walls of water around them. And so they took a little while, but now they're growing strong. There's lots of tomatoes on there, and pretty soon I'll have so many tomatoes I won't know what to do with because that's the way it works. And Dorothy is here. Hello. Good evening, young lady. Cheryl says it's 99 degrees there today. Ooh, that is hot for New York. Crazy. Yeah, but I thought, okay, what is happening in my garden right now? Now, I pulled my garlic the other day. And so here is a garlic clove. This one it's a bulb. It has 7 cloves inside of it. Now, what do you do with garlic? So you pull it out, then you have to let it cure. So what I did, I have these long rectangle baskets, and I laid them all in there because I want all that leaf material to die back. And I try not to cut it before then. And Diane is here. Hello. I know it's getting long, long, long all the time. Trees, I have different sizes, but I have a lot this size. So that's kind of fun. I love garlic. Angie says that garlic is so delicious. I gave her some when she was here in Wyoming. And so I'm happy about that. So you let your garlic dry back. If you can put it on tables, on racks, in baskets, something that's going to let some airflow go around there. And you let them all dry. And then you're just going to take your nippers and you're going to cut it off. So you can still see, you see that in there? That, because I grow hardneck garlic, this is where the scape came out. And it comes up and it curls around. And if you left it there, it would flower and it would make little boblets in there. So I just nip it off. And This will last a long, long time. I have a ceramic garlic, I guess you'd call it a garlic container, has some holes in the side. And you can just pile garlic in there, has a lot of air circulation, and it works very well. But after I cure it for about 2 weeks, then I'm okay. It'll last and last. But I won't plant some of the cloves into the ground again. Um, if we get a cold September, I'll do it at the end of September. Otherwise, I'll wait till October, just before we go to Arizona, and I'll dig it in. Because I'm okay with it growing some roots, but I don't want it to actually start growing again. Because the cloves I take down to Arizona, they'll literally grow once I put them in the ground because it's warm. And it's like they forget that they're supposed to sleep for a little while. Dorothy says, I saw your million choke cherries. Oh gosh, I had so many choke cherries. They're tart. I wouldn't say they're bitter, but they are tart. And then when I went to South Dakota this last weekend, my brother gave me 3-gallon bags of choke cherries too to make more jelly. And so, yes, I had millions and millions of choke cherries. But that's okay. And some of them will last all the way till I'm ready to harvest. If I haven't eaten them all up, they'll last all the way until I'm ready to harvest next year, which is awesome. And if I put in them in my pantry, it's cool. It's about 55 degrees there in the wintertime, and so they last longer. Sometimes people ask me, can you put it in the refrigerator? I don't put it in the refrigerator just because it can be very humid in parts of your refrigerator. Plus, it'd make everything smell like garlic. I think I'm always better just to put it in a basket, or if you have a garlic container, put it in that. Put it in a cool, dark spot. Now, the other thing that you probably have tons of right now is the dreaded zucchini. Look at the size of that baby. And that's not my biggest one I have. But most of the time I pick them much earlier. But I went over after we'd been to South Dakota, so it was 2 days before I was back to the garden, and those babies had grown. Now, I like slicing it and putting breadcrumbs on it or cracker crumbs on it and frying it up. I like that, or you can grill it. But some of the fun things to do with zucchini, because I shred a lot of it. So if I want zucchini muffins or zucchini bread, I give them to my neighbors, things like that. Um, and Anne is here. Hi, girl. I just saw you. And but one of the things I'm going to do with some of my zucchinis is I'm going to peel these, take the seeds out, and slice them about 1/8 to a 1/4 inch thick, right? Then I'm going to boil them in pineapple juice. Now, from that point, if I was just going to can it up, I would add a little bit of sugar and I'd add a little bit of lemon juice. And it's basically the zucchini will end up tasting like pineapple. But what I'm going to do with a bunch of them this week is I am going to do that, boil them until they get a little translucent um, in the pineapple juice. I'm going to strain them, and then I'm putting them in my dehydrator, and I'm going to make zucchini candy. So that should be a fun, delicious thing. And there is a million recipes on what to do with all those extra zucchinis you have. And so I'm excited about my zucchinis. And I have both yellow zucchinis and the green zucchinis. But most of the time when it's smaller, I just add them to salads. I saute them with breakfast. I put them on pizzas. There's a lot of things to do with your zucchinis. Dorothy says, a good tart berry makes an amazing jelly. It does. Yeah, this is a big zucchini. If they get really big, it's funny about a zucchini. If it's very small, if it's under 6 inches, it's a courgette. When it gets to around this size, it's actually a zucchini. But then if it gets really big, it's a marrow, which is Interesting. And now you can buy seeds that are genetically changed a little bit. So they're always going to stay small, or they're always going to stay the medium size, or they're going to make the great big marrow. So it's kind of fun. Do the yellow ones grow that large too? They would. If I just left them on the plant, they would grow like that. I have a couple that I picked the other day that are probably this tall, but most of them I like to pick when they're small, just because I love them when I'm frying up. Well, a lot of times I don't fry up potatoes anymore. I fry up my apples. And then I'll add mushrooms and I'll add zucchinis and I'll add just whatever's coming out of the garden and do a couple fried eggs, and it is spectacular. Yeah, zucchini candy. Zucchini is funny because you can make a mock apple pie. And so the zucchini slices, because you're putting apple pie spices, the cinnamon and the sugar, some people put in, oh, they might put in nutmeg or ginger or cloves in their apple pie. If you do that and have zucchini in there still, it'll taste like an apple pie. Just like when you boil that it in pineapple juice, it's going to taste like pineapple. So I kind of like that about a zucchini, that you can make mock different things. So that's kind of fun. Now, we leave for Arizona. We'll probably leave about the 10th, 11th of October. I have to be down there by the 16th because I'm teaching a class at the fairgrounds. But I am going to make some seed snails. And Anne, that's in here, her and I both have made seed snails. Actually, I've been making these for a long, long time. But Anne and I did them this spring. So this is just regular bubble wrap, right? The bubbly side is on the outside. You just lay that down, put your soil mix on top. Just spread it around. Then you put your seeds. And then you just carefully roll that up like that. And so it gets fatter and fatter because it's got soil around it. And then you can put it in containers so that it has some water. I always like my soil being moist, but not dripping wet or anything. And that way I can have a lot of plants in a little teeny plastic box. I'll put it under my grow lights and on my warming mat for right now, because I want them to be ready when I get to Arizona to plant in my gardens. So it's going to be amazing. Oh, Anne says that she made mock apple pie with zucchini. It is delicious. Teresa's asking how my dad is. My dad is fabulous. I saw them this weekend, my mom and dad, in September. Actually on the 14th. They're going to have an anniversary party. It's not quite their anniversary. Their anniversary is on the 18th. But this year, my parents will have been married 70 years. And not a lot of people can say that. So they're just starting to work on this party. And so, Angie, I'll send you an invitation. Not that I really expect you to come down to Rapid City, but if you it happens to work, it'll be great. Angie says, my ear started hurting yesterday. Today I heated up some olive oil and 3 of your garlic cloves, finely chopped. Let it cool. Then I put the oil on a cotton ball and put it in my ear. 2 hours later, no pain. That works so amazing. It's very fascinating that the things that we can grow can heal us. And I love that. Totally exciting. I know, 70 years. I just find that phenomenal, actually. And so I'm very excited. I always tease people, they've been married longer than I've been alive. And they look at you for a second. But my sister, oh, she is ornery. When we were growing up, my mom's birthday is September 1st. Their anniversary is the 18th, but my sister's birthday is the 24th. So my sister would tell people, Now, this is in the 60s and 70s, so it's a shocker then. They'd she'd say, "Yep, my my parents got married on the 18th and I was born on the 24th." Not telling them it was a whole year later, and she just thought that was the funniest thing. And she told people that I can't even tell you how many times. 1010 marks 16 years since my first date with my husband. Congratulations to your parents. My aunt and uncle just made it to 50 years on my birthday. That is amazing. Yeah, in our crazy world, not a lot of people can say stuff like that. But what am I going to grow in these seed stems? Now, I have 3 raised beds down in Arizona, and then I have a garden space behind the house too. And so I'm going to do my brassicas. Now, I only really need probably of any given brassica, which is like your cabbage, your broccolis, your cauliflowers, things like that. I don't need more than 6, right? So when I do these, I'm going to put extra soil in there. And if I feel like I need to put another layer of bubble wrap just to hold that extra soil, I'll just do that. Because out of the circle, I only want 6 plants growing out, where you could really plant 20 or more. So I just don't want to do that. But I'm going to do my cabbages, my broccolis, my cauliflowers. I'll do some tomatoes. I'll do some peppers, a few flowers. I like to grow zinnias and different things down there. Not that I have to start zinnias early or snapdragons early, but I just get to enjoy them longer if I do. And in fact, this is the start of my bag to take to Arizona. But I'm going to do some watermelon and some cantaloupe, stuff like that. Where I live in Arizona, it doesn't actually snow there. It may get cool. You might see frost once in a blue moon, but I can just cover things up if it looks like it's going to be cooler. I mean, I have banana trees down there and they don't freeze, so it doesn't get that cold. Dorothy says, I was born on my grandparents' and 2 aunts and uncles' anniversaries. What are the odds of that? That's crazy fun. It's fun how in families, like some families, everybody's born in a certain month. For me, my one grandmother was born on June 29th. I'm born on July 29th. My other grandmother was August 29th, and my aunt was September 29th. I find that fun. Not that has anything to do with gardening. It just popped into my brain. But tell me what you're harvesting right now. Now I know, like Anne, I know she still has some peppers, but her season is just that slowing down finally, and then she can add her fall garden in, where a lot of places don't have a fall garden period, just because they're farther north and it's harder to do. You have to do a lot of covering and little hoop houses and stuff like that to get that second set of garden vegetables. Julie says, I'm starting the winter celery and parsley. Bit early for lettuce and herbs. Interesting. Anne says, we got like 20 squash plants. I don't think that seed smells all the way through. Because Anne had squash in her seed snow. And I mean, those plants were just growing all over the place. It was awesome. Oh, look at there. Diane's birthday is December 29th. See, I like having things like that. That is awesome. I'm going to remember that. But I'm going to grow some cucumbers. And I'd always like to try corn or something down there, but our lot is where our little house is, our little property. It's just not that big, and corn takes up a lot of space. I could grow my squashes in between. I could do that. And I have grown a little bit of corn down there, but corn is wind pollinated, and we do get some wind, but the place that I would grow, there's not a lot of wind back there. It's more up farther front of my house, and so I don't know. Oh, and Dorothy's daughter is December 29th too. See, people have lots of things in common, and I like that. Now, I have been reading this book, and I think it's the second or third time I've read it. And every single time I read it, I get more things out of it because I like reading gardening books. And I know some people would like just shoot me. I don't want to read a garden book, but I love reading garden books. And this is called The Intelligent Gardener. Steve Solomon is the one who wrote it. He was the one who originally made territorial seeds out in Oregon. And he had territorial seeds for, I think, 6 or 9 years, and then he sold it. But it's just such an interesting book on a lot of times all we want to do is put nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, in our gardens. But he really talks about the minerals that we need, because those other things make plants grow fast and big. But if you don't have the minerals, they're not as good and healthy for you as they could be. And so it's a really interesting book if you have a chance. I'm actually listening to it on Audible this time because I want to be able to do other things, garden, or when I'm driving, I'm listening to it. But it is a great book, The Intelligent Gardener. So if you have a chance, fabulous book. What was the huge gardening encyclopedia you showed a long time back? I want to find it, a copy. Which one would have I used? I just have so many of them. I'll have to think about that, Dorothy, and I'll let you know. I'll send you an email. Because I have a lot of gardening books. In fact, for my birthday this year, I wanted new bookcases because I have my bookcase downstairs. But then I had all these books stacked all over and under tables and in tables, and on my treadle sewing machine, I had books stacked, and I just had stacks of books. So for my birthday, I got 3 that go across here, full tall ones, and then underneath the window, I have 3 in my bedroom. And just in my bedroom, all it is gardening and herb books. None of my other books. So I'll look in there, and I will let you know about that, because there's just so many excellent gardening books. So it's hard to decide. Now, one thing to remember about the seed snails is you want the bubbly part, where it pokes out. You want that where the soil is, because the roots will just work their way all the way around. And it's kind of fun because once it starts growing, you can see the roots. And because you put it in a container, once those seedlings are up, you can just add the fertilizer into the water when you water from below, and it's a fabulous thing. Dorothy says, I remember the cover is a lot like the painting in the garden series. It's a big old book. I'm gonna right after this, I'm gonna have to go look. Trats. I don't know why I can't think what it is. It is actually, I told my husband, I said, I can't even tell you how happy this makes me. Before I go to bed, if I want to read something, it's just right there, right? I get up in the morning and I'm surrounded by things that I love. And it's very soothing and lovely for me. Now, doesn't mean that's for everybody, but for me, it is amazing. Now, another thing that's growing very well in my garden this year down at the community garden are my peppers. Now, peppers are a funny thing because, one, they don't like cool nights, and we had a lot of cool nights. They don't like wind, and we've had a lot of wind. But where I planted them in the community garden, I have on the north and northwest side, I have tomato plants, and then I have all my zucchini plants. So the wind isn't hitting against those peppers at all. And I have just spectacular huge pepper plants, and there are peppers everywhere on them. And I have regular bell peppers because I'm growing those from for the vineyard chicks for their survival seeds 2025. And the other ones are jalapenos. And I seriously gonna have the best plants that I've had in a few years. So that's what's exciting when you have something that's just really growing. Now, a thing that I realized when I plant my garlic in the fall, um, it comes up, and I usually plant things in between after it's already up for a while. Like last year, I planted carrots in between. The carrots grew beautifully in between. Radishes will grow beautifully in between. But this year, I thought, I'm going to plant my onions in between. Now, I don't know what it is about it, but the onions and garlic don't like to grow together. The garlic grew fine because it had already had the head start. But usually by now, my onions are like the size of softballs. And that is not the case. So I pulled out all my garlic, and even in the week's time since I pulled my garlic up, the increase in the size of those onions is just amazing. So I don't know if the garlic was just taking too much of the water. It's not really shading it. So what about you guys? What do you grow with your garlic? What have you found that works really good with your garlic? Um, Carrots is an amazing thing to grow with your garlic. And I just would plant them in between the rows of garlic. And because I usually grow, I don't know, anywhere from 80 to 100 and some cloves of garlic. Now, I end up giving to different kids, my neighbors. I have to replant my garlic so that I have it for next year. And then just the sheer amount of garlic that we use in a year's time. But it's just things you learn from time to time when you're gardening. Some things work, some things don't work. And definitely don't plant your onions in between your garlic. But um, I love that. Now, I didn't plant my cabbages until way late. Usually I have them in the very first thing, but I didn't. I was growing them from seed. A lot of things I either just barely started before I left Arizona, or I started when I got home. And so they were little when I put them in there, but they're getting bigger. The plants are getting real big. And so it's interesting how your garden grows differently every single year. Ann says, our garlic hasn't really grown much, but we use tons of garlic. And are you growing soft neck or hard neck garlic? Because depending on where you live, people grow different things. Now, I have grown soft neck garlic, which I wouldn't plant until springtime because it's too cold up here to plant it in the winter. Where hardneck, I just planted about 4 inches deep because we have cold and hot through the summer or through the winter. And the ground heaves. And so if I planted it too close, oh, there I'm back again. I'm doing stuff. Why is my internet going away? Oh, okay. So Anne is growing soft neck garlic. Things I've just learned from now. I'm growing up in the north, and Anne is in the south. Um, I don't find that my soft neck garlic gets as big. It has more cloves, but the actual individual cloves I don't think are as big and fat as a hardneck garlic. Now, that might be just the variety that I've tried. But for me, if if you don't want to buy a bunch of garlic, go to your grocery store. And they always sell soft neck garlic, but every once in a while, especially a little independent grocery store, they'll have hard neck garlic. And the way you know is if it has this really hard center, because that's where the scape came up. And soft neck garlic just usually just has the leaves that come up. I don't harvest my garlic until at least half of those leaves have started that are really dying back. So there's just tricks to do. But it's already 30 minutes. How is that possible? I so appreciate you guys coming in, and because I haven't done a live for a long time. So that's right. Got your back. And I don't know what the deal was with that. Just started spinning. Dorothy says, I need to grow garlic and potatoes purely for the saving the dollars. Now, a lot of people will tell you that it's not worth growing potatoes because they take up a lot of space, but there is nothing that tastes better than a homegrown potato. Seriously. And in fact, this year, the potatoes that I grew were actually store-bought potatoes, not seed potatoes, just store-bought potatoes. Now, what I found was the plants were not as tall, but so far, the ones that I pulled up, so delicious, and so many of them, which shocked me. I mean, seriously shocked me. But the garlic is nice because you invest in it once, and as long as you're returning part of that back into your garden each year, you never have to buy it again. I have some garlic that I've had for basically 20 years that I keep putting back into the soil. Other ones I've grown again. Every once in a while, I can kind of see them start to get not as big, and I'll replace parts of them. But there's a few that I know are from my original garlics. Dorothy says, I'm going to do potatoes in the alley. No one will ever know. That's right. No one will ever know. Just do it. Just be careful if there's any kind of spraying back there, because it can kill those leaves very easily. Okay, but I'm going to let you go. It's past 30 minutes. Thank you so much for popping in when I haven't had a live for a long time. And I just so appreciate you guys. And I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.